Um, just so you guys know, there is a chat box. I will be looking at this at the end of the presentation, just so I can stay focused. It just helps me that way. So if you have any questions, I am going to try to leave a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. All right, so I'm going to get started. So today we're going to be focusing on maintaining our energy and focus during the holy month of Ramadan. So the objectives of this presentation, I'm going to just discuss a few of the teachings of this holy month. I'm going to help you understand what happens to our body while we are fasting. And, whenever I do any kind of education, before I give recommendations, I really want you guys to understand the why of why these foods are recommended. Okay. So I really want to take you through kind of what is going on in our body so you guys can understand that. And once you understand that, the recommendations that I give you will just make more sense. And I'm also going to be identifying the factors that impact our energy levels. This is really important. I'm also going to be identifying specific nutrients our body needs in order to stay energized and fueled while we are fasting. And I'm also going to be, explaining how to balance the two meals during Ramadan, which is obviously suhoor and iftar. Okay, so both of those are incredibly important. So I'm going to talk about, what we need to do to kind of balance those meals. All right. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator. I work as a clinical dietitian at the MedCan Clinic, which is in Toronto. And I'm also in private practice, and I'm a virtual dietitian, and I help clients all over the globe. And my specialty is in prediabetes, diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, along with insulin resistance. So this is the area that I absolutely love working with people to kind of get control of their blood sugars and insulin resistance. As you know, prediabetes, diabetes is really prevalent in the South Asian community. And, if you're lucky enough to be diagnosed with prediabetes, I don't mean lucky in that sense, but when you're in that prediabetes phase, you have complete control over your lifestyle to kind of reverse that to get back into the normal stage. So that's kind of, my area of where I really like helping people in. Because diet and your lifestyle are a form of medication. And because there's no cure for diabetes, our lifestyle really matters. So I wanted to start off with this quote because I think it's, really meaningful. And it is, "Eat and drink, but do not be excessive. Indeed, he likes those who do not commit in excess." And this is from Sir Al-Araf. And this just goes to show that, Ramadan is, even though we do have extremes in terms of, we don't eat or drink anything all day, it doesn't necessarily mean when we do break fast that, we kind of lose sight of what we're doing. We want to keep that awareness all the time. And I think this month does such an amazing job of helping us reset in that. So I just wanted to go over some of the benefits of this holy month. It is a month of purification for the soul, the heart, the body, and the mind. It is a month that we practice patience and self-control. And I think this is, really amazing because, living the life that we do now, everything is, really fast paced. We want things done immediately, and kind of taking that step back to practice patience and self-control is amazing because not a lot of people can do this. And we're really lucky that we're given this month every single year to practice this, because this is something that it continually needs practice. We can't just, have patience all year through. We go through phases. And I think this month is so beautiful because it really helps us to reset that. This month is also amazing in that it really helps you be mindful, and being mindful, in so many ways, with our health, with our family, with everything that we do, just having more awareness to that, being more intentional with our actions is amazing. I think many of us can get lost in the day to day, and having this month to really do a lot of reflection is really amazing. Also, this month is such a blessed month in giving to charity, being grateful, strengthening family bonds and our community. And even though this is our second Ramadan in the pandemic, I think the world has really come together. There's, with Technology obviously has really helped us stay connected. I'm here able to connect with all of you in different time zones to educate. And even though this is not ideal situation to be in, being in the pandemic, a big part of Ramadan is meeting with our community, breaking fast with families and friends. It's such a beautiful component of that. And sadly, that won't be the case again this year, but there are other ways that, we can benefit in this month. And then lastly, becoming better versions of ourselves. This month really gives us that opportunity to just take a step back from our daily routines and really focus on where we want to achieve or what we want to work on. Whether it's, engaging in more prayer, reciting the Quran more, spending time with family, as much as we can, given the pandemic. But it's just an opportunity for us to really kind of hone in on our actions and how we think. All of that is affected, while we fast. Our senses are heightened, right? So it's really a great opportunity for us to kind of embrace this month. I know it's a month that a lot of people don't necessarily look forward to, but once it's there, it's such a magical month, and when it ends, it is sad. And there's so many teachings that this month provides, which I just think is absolutely fascinating. So today, I'm going to be focusing on the teachings of our body and our mind in terms of what we eat. All right. So, like I explained before, I really want to go into explain to you the why behind some of the recommendations that I'm going to be giving you later on in this presentation. So, I really want to help you guys understand what happens to our bodies when we fast. And it's really interesting and very fascinating. So, first of all, our body enters a fasting state 8 hours after we have a meal. Okay. So, glucose, which is our natural form of energy that our body utilizes. Our glucose, when we don't use it right away, it gets stored in our liver and our muscles. So in a fasting state, that energy from the food that we eat is released. Okay, it's the primary fuel source that is used up first. So this happens after every single meal. We have the sugar molecules that are digested, which is glucose, and we use that up. And once we use that up, that's floating in our bloodstream, we tap into our reserves, and then we use that. Then what happens after we've used up all our glucose stores? Our body taps into our second source of fuel, and this source is fat. Okay, so we are using fat as fuel, and this is really advantageous for many reasons. The keto diet, for example, or the intermittent fasting. This is what they want to achieve. They want to achieve using fat as fuel. And when we use fat as fuel, our body becomes more efficient because we're burning up our fat stores. So whenever you want to engage in weight loss, this is what you want to achieve. You want to be tapping into your fat reserves, as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, if you are looking to lose weight, you want to lose fat. You don't want to be losing water. You do not want to be losing muscle. You want to be losing fat. So our second fuel source is using our fat stores, and we all have plenty of that. And that's what our body uses for fuel. Now, sometimes when we fast, we may notice our breath changes. It's kind of like a fruity, kind of like some people may explain it as smelling like nail polish remover. And that's just ketones in our body. So that's indicating to us that our body is now using fat as fuel. So that would be a good reminder. Not everyone experiences this, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not using fat as fuel if you don't have that. Also, our salivary glands play a role as well because we haven't been eating or drinking anything. So that also contributes to the change in your breath. So I just wanted you to understand that. And then lastly, the third source is our protein stores. Okay. Now, this is not what we want. This is dangerous and undesirable, and it's known as starvation mode. And this typically happens after fasting for 24 hours, which luckily in Ramadan, we do go, especially depending on where you live in the world, we do have really long fasts, but we never really reach that 24-hour. So we don't really exceed that. So this is not something that we need to be concerned with. However, if you're not eating properly, then, our body may tap into our protein stores, but we don't want to do that. So Again, this kind of highlights our macronutrients. So we have our carbohydrates, which is our primary fuel source. Then we have our fat, which is used secondary. And then lastly is our protein, which is used as like a backup. Okay, now I get this question many times, and the question is, does my stomach shrink? And the answer is no. Your stomach does not shrink while you are fasting, although it may seem like it does, and I'm going to explain to you why that happens. So over here, I just have a quick diagram of your stomach, and then this other icon over here in blue is supposed to represent your brain. So your brain and your stomach are connected, and this connection is incredibly important. Um, so what happens is that your stomach doesn't shrink. Okay, the only way that you can shrink your stomach is through surgery. Okay, that's the only way you can make your stomach smaller. However, our appetite does shrink because of certain hormones in our body. Okay, so when we are fasting, like I explained to you what our body goes through, this changes our hormone levels in our body. So we have hormones that signify to us when we are hungry and when we are full. So ghrelin is our hunger hormone, and leptin is our fullness hormone. So, this month we experience being hungry and we experience fullness to its capacity. And I think this is so beautiful because so many of us in this day and age, we are surrounded by food all the time. Many people that I work with don't realize when they're hungry and don't realize when they're full. And we have been given that opportunity for an entire month. Okay. We are not just fasting for one day or for 1 week. We are fasting for 29 to 30 days. This is such a long time. So we are able to kind of reset our hormones. And by doing this, they become incredibly sensitive because we are going through such a long time of not eating or drinking. So because we go through this long time and our hormones become more sensitive, this communication with our brain and stomach is very fine tuned. So it's not that our stomach shrinks, it's just that our appetites are just very on point. They're very heightened. So, and this is amazing because when you look into the research when it comes to weight loss, hormones play a huge, huge role. So regulating our ghrelin and leptin, something that scientists are researching. There's certain medications that can suppress your appetite, that kind of work on these hormones, but we naturally are able to tap into it while we fast. And I think that's pretty remarkable. Not a lot of people can do this, and we have that opportunity to do so. So that quote that I started with earlier about do not be in excess. This is, our body is teaching us this. So I really want you guys to lean into, when you are fasting, you're going to go through periods of hunger, and it's a wave in our body, and you just need to sit with that. You don't want to fight it. You don't want to feel discouraged. It's going to come in waves, and it's okay. These are just our hormones rebalancing, which is something that is really magical. Okay. And then our leptin is our fullness hormone. Again, when we eat something, when we get full, I want you to listen to that and listen to what your body is trying to tell you. It's quite magical. And I think in this month, really noticing when we're hungry, noticing when we're full, again, being mindful. This is going to help you, if you do have, weight loss goals or are trying to manage a health condition. This is what we want to tap into, our hunger hormones. So hopefully this kind of explains to you what's going on in our body. And our stomach doesn't necessarily shrink, but our appetite does change, and that's because we are becoming more sensitive to our hunger hormones. So while it's not possible to shrink your stomach, it's possible to change how your stomach adjusts to hunger and feelings of fullness. And I think this is just, such a great blessing that we have. Usually with people who have obesity, their levels of hormones are off, and they're not able to tap into that. So we are given this month to really focus on, being mindful of when we eat. So, listening to your body, especially when you're full, that's something that I really want you guys to kind of lean into this month. So if you can take anything away from this presentation today, it's this fact over here of how we can regulate our hunger hormones while we fast. So again, this is just explaining to you what's going on. So we have our ghrelin, which is the appetite stimulator. Okay, so these neurotransmitters, hormones, communicate with our brain and our stomach all the time. And by fasting, we're just making that communication really sensitive, which is amazing. Okay, this is just a great way for our body to reset. So ghrelin is released from the stomach, and when it's elevated, it sends a signal to your brain letting you know that you're hungry and it's time to eat. Okay, so age, your gender, your blood sugar levels, which I'm going to be talking a little bit about today, and our leptin levels can all affect our ghrelin, sorry. Okay, and then we have our leptin, which is the appetite suppressor. So this signals to you, when you're really full. And I feel like in Ramadan, we really experience both these extremes. We experience when we're really hungry, and then we experience that fullness, that, oh my gosh, I'm so full. So we experience the extreme of it. So leptin is stored and secreted by our fat cells, and it's considered to be the master regulator of hunger. When you eat a meal, leptin is released from the fat cells and sends a signal to your brain to let you know when you're full and to stop eating. Okay, so you never really want to reach the point where you're so incredibly full, but I want you to tap into that and listen to your body when you're full. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the factors that directly impact our energy levels. So they are our food choices, our hydration, our exercise and sleep, along with having a health condition. So, for example, if you have thyroid, that definitely impacts your energy levels. If you have an autoimmune condition like celiac disease, that impacts our energy levels as well. So, while we fast, all of these factors are affected, right? The amount of hydration we get, the amount of exercise, and sleep. Sleep is huge. This is something that I'm going to touch on a little bit, but that's definitely impacted while we are fasting, and along with our food choices. So today I'm going to be talking specifically with our food, and I will tap into some of the other ones as well. So these are the main factors that impact our energy levels. Okay, so what should we eat when we fast? So the main goal is, again, to focus on whole foods that are packed with minerals, vitamins, fiber, and antioxidants. Okay, so the first group, which is our macros, is our carbohydrates. Now, our carbohydrates, if you remember, are our primary fuel source, and this is what our body uses when we don't get any food. It taps into those stores. And you get carbohydrates from a variety of foods, specifically our fruit and vegetables, our whole grains, such as bajra, millet, barley, along with beans and lentils, such as mung, masoor, tur dals. These are all different lentils. So these are our carbohydrates. And then also our protein. Okay, remember, we need to be eating adequate protein. And specifically, we really want to focus on lean protein. So I'm talking about chicken, fish, and eggs. And then lastly, our healthy fats. We want to make sure we're getting in healthy fats because, again, talking about hormone health, our hormones can function only when we have adequate fats in our body and the right type of fats. So I'm talking about plant-based fats as much as possible. So avocado, nuts, seeds, and olive oil. So I really wanted to talk just quickly over here on lean protein, specifically with fish. I don't many people don't eat fish during Ramadan, and the reasoning behind that is because it is known to make you thirsty. Now, there's no evidence backing this up. I've looked into it. Fish is a really great protein source. It's lean, and fish should be consumed. It's a really great food to have when you're fasting. Only way it can cause thirst necessarily is how it's prepared. If there's a lot of sodium in it, if it's deep fried, that those methods of preparation can increase your need to drink water. So if you're baking fish, steaming it, that's absolutely okay to have. You just want to be careful with how much salt you're adding, but again, that's with all our cooking. So again, there's no harm in eating fish during Ramadan. It's actually a really great protein source to include. Okay, so again, like I mentioned, one of the foods that you really want to make sure you're getting in is our carbohydrates. Okay. Now, you want to be smart with your carbohydrates, and you want to choose foods that give you the longest lasting power, okay? So this is our complex carbohydrates. So remember again, carbohydrates is our body's primary fuel source. It turns into sugar or glucose in our bloodstream, okay? And so when we have sugar in our blood, we need a hormone, and that hormone is called insulin. So insulin, it comes down, it picks up all that sugar molecules, and it directs it into the cells for energy. Now, insulin, like I mentioned, is a hormone, and this hormone, insulin, and the other two hormones that I mentioned, ghrelin and leptin, the hunger hormones, they're all connected. So when you work on one hormone, it kind of helps regulate the other hormones. So the goal when you are fasting is that you want to keep your insulin levels as stable as possible. You don't want to have those blood sugar spikes and those dips, because if you can see on this graph here, our blood sugar levels. So a high glycemic index food. So this is an example of, let's just say, white bread. Okay, it turns to sugar very quickly in our body, and then it dips low. So how you want to eat foods that have flattened curves, like the low GI foods, because this directly impacts your energy levels. So if you're having a lot of refined grains or a lot of sugary foods or sugary drinks, this is what it's doing to your blood sugar levels. It's going up high, and then it's going to come back down again at the same rate. So that's just going to make us feel really energetic, and then we're going to have a huge drop. This is not what we want, especially when we're fasting. We want to try to keep our energy stable. So the goal is, when you are choosing your carbohydrates, you want to be smart, you want to be strategic, you want to choose carbohydrates that are high in fiber. So that's our complex carbs. And that fiber, with fiber, it kind of suppresses those peaks. So, for example, let's say this is white bread in the red and it's brown bread in the yellow. So a whole grain bread, like rye, for example, it has that fiber because the fiber is intact, and it's going to help slower the spikes in our blood sugar levels. And when we have these stable, kind of flattened curves, that just naturally is reflected in our energy levels. So this is the goal. While we are fasting, we want to keep our blood sugar stable as much as possible. If we have high spikes, we're going to have lows, and that's just going to throw us off, and it's not going to make us feel good. The higher the spikes, the more insulin is needed, and that can, impact our other hormones as well. So we want to try to keep insulin levels regulated as much as we can, and we can absolutely do this with our diet choices, specifically our carbohydrates, because they are directly impacted, or they directly impact our insulin levels. Okay, so speaking of fiber, if you guys have listened to my previous lectures or have worked with me, I'm a big fan of fiber. And again, foods that are high in fiber are naturally going to keep our insulin levels low. And fiber is not digested in our body. Fiber is one of those magical nutrients, and they expand and take up space in our stomach. And this is what we want, right? When we're fasting, we want to be full for longer. And fiber is a natural appetite suppressant. So we really want to hone in and making sure we're getting enough fiber in our diets, especially when we're fasting. We only have 2 meals. We want to, make the most out of them. So by focusing on fiber, it's going to help get you there. So fiber is only found in plant foods. Okay, guys? So we're talking about fruit and vegetables, nuts and seeds, beans and lentils, and whole grains. This is where we get our fiber from. So fiber does a host of things in our bodies. Okay, so it's great for our digestive health. It keeps it keeps us regular. It's also really important for having a healthy microbiome. Okay, this is our gut bacteria. So, our gut bacteria is very closely linked to other types of chronic disease. So they've found that people who don't have a healthy gut bacteria are more at risk for other ailments. So when we have a healthy gut bacteria, like our gut is kind of the central core of our body. So if we have a healthy gut, that means we have a healthy body, essentially. So fiber is the food for our gut bacteria. Okay, this is what our gut bacteria loves and thrives on. We want to have a diverse microbiome because it does wonders for us. It really does help our overall health. I actually have done a lecture for the Ellie Academy on digestive health. So if you're interested in kind of learning more about what fiber can do, I encourage you to check that out. But today, just keep in mind that the fiber that we get in our diet is super important, again, for keeping you full, for your digestion, as well as improving our gut bacteria. And fiber also, why I love it so much, and why I recommend it to my clients, is that it helps keep your blood sugar steady. And if you guys remember, when your blood sugars are steady, that means your energy levels are steady. And that's what we want. And then lastly, fiber really helps with disease prevention, specifically with cholesterol management and diabetes. Okay, so foods that are naturally high in fiber, as you can see in this diagram, they're colorful, they're loaded with so many other nutrients, vitamin C, your B vitamins, iron. These are the whole foods that I need you guys to incorporate in your diet. Also, magnesium is another nutrient that our body really needs, and it's involved in different processes in our body. And magnesium is naturally found in high fiber foods. So leafy greens, beans and lentils, avocados, all those foods are really a great source of fiber and magnesium. So, during Ramadan, you really want to think as food as fuel. You want to make sure the foods that you choose to eat are going to be multitasking. So they're going to be able to do many things at once. And fiber is definitely one of those foods. Okay. Okay, so iron. This is a very important nutrient that our body is essential in our body. So iron helps boost hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is a protein in our red blood cell, and it carries oxygen to every single organ and tissue in your body. So when we have low iron, our hemoglobin is low and it's not able to carry oxygen. So as a result, our cells are tired because they don't have that oxygen to transport. So when our cells are tired, guess what? We're tired as well. So, if you have a history of low iron, if you're on an iron supplement, that's great. You can continue with that. If you do not know if you have an iron deficiency, it would be a good idea to get some blood work done to find out. And they're going to be checking your ferritin, which is your iron stores. So you want to make sure that you are not low in iron, because if you are, taking a supplement can definitely help you. Iron is also responsible for our immunity. Okay, it helps boost your immunity. It helps reduce fatigue. It improves your concentration. Okay, and your focus. It helps restore sleep as well. So these are all these are all symptoms that people feel when they're fasting, right? They don't have, they lack in concentration. They are feeling tired. They're feeling cold, for example. So this has to do with also making sure we're getting enough iron in our diet. Now, iron in our diet is found in two forms. It is non-heme, meaning it's from a plant source, okay? And then there's our heme sources, which is from an animal source. So you can get iron in a variety of foods. Now, the animal sources of iron, such as beef, liver, chicken, eggs, fish, our body is able to absorb that very efficiently, okay? But our non-heme or our plant-based iron, such as our leafy greens like spinach, fruit, nuts, beans, our grains such as oatmeal, our body doesn't absorb that as efficiently. So, what you need to do is have a source of vitamin C with your plant-based iron source. Okay, so for example, if you're having a bowl of oatmeal, you want to add some blueberries or strawberries in that, because all fruit and vegetables will have vitamin C, so your body is able to absorb that iron. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I think I did see a question, but I'm going to check the questions at the end. Okay, so let me just answer it since I'm talking about this right now. So the question is, if you had to recommend one food and one method to increase iron, what would it be? Spinach, for example. Okay, so if you are not plant-based, I would say starting with, a meat source or like animal source would be your best one to take. If you are plant-based, so you're not eating any animal foods, then just making sure you are pairing your plant-based iron with vitamin C. So hopefully that answers your question. So for example, spinach, right? To absorb that, having foods that are high in vitamin C. So if you're doing a salad, you want to include some red pepper in there because it has a lot of vitamin C in it. If you're doing a smoothie, you could add fruit in there with that vitamin C to help your body absorb the iron sources. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so our next group of vitamins include our B vitamins. So our B vitamins are incredibly important and they're found in a variety of foods. Okay, so all these foods, you guys may notice, right? A lot of them do repeat, right? And those are the foods that multitask. So those are the foods that I want you to have more often because they hit all those things. They have fiber, they have iron, they have your B vitamins. So they have all those things that you want. So B vitamins are the building blocks of a healthy body. It directly impacts our energy levels. It helps with our brain function. It helps with our cell metabolism. B vitamins help release energy from the foods that we eat, so from our macros, from our carbohydrates, fat, and protein. So B vitamins also help with oxygen transport between our cells. Okay, so it really helps our cellular health. So all these, nutrients that I'm talking about are working at the cellular level, which is what we want. And there's 8 types of B vitamins. There's all of these guys. So there's thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, biotin, folate, folic acid, and our B12. So all of these are very easily accessible in our diet. Okay, our water-based, like a lot of these are even fortified in our cereals and our grains. The only one that I really wanted to highlight here is our B12. So B12 is only found in animal foods, and it's a really important vitamin, especially with our nerve and our brain function. So if you are plant-based, you should be taking a B12. If you're not, then getting it through food is absolutely doable. Now, B12, naturally, we need more when we age. So anyone over the age of 50 should be taking a supplement of a B12. Okay, what happens is B12, how it's metabolized in our body, it's in our intestines. And we need that acid in our intestine to absorb B12 in our small intestine. But as we age, our acid levels decrease in our body. So that means we just need to increase our B12. So we need to take a supplement with that. So if you're over the age of 50, taking a B12 is highly recommended. And that really does impact your energy levels as well. So again, if you're over the age of 50, or if you are plant-based, then taking a B12 supplement is recommended. If you don't fit into those 2 categories, then just really making sure you're getting a good variety of animal and plant foods will help get you there. All right, so I'm going to be talking about the 2 main meals that we have when we fast. So our first one is suhoor. So again, if you really want this month to be focused on improving your energy levels, improving just the way you feel, you definitely cannot be skipping suhoor. You cannot do that. That will just drain your energy. You won't feel as alert. So the best way to kind of help set you up for this meal is to plan it the night before. Taking a few minutes to have that preparation in place is going to really help you because obviously we're waking up in the middle of the night. We don't want to, and it's really hard to do. Absolutely. It's not something that I like to do, but it really does help. So planning the night before is your best bet. Okay. And it doesn't take long to do. And what I want you guys to keep in mind during this first meal is to aim for at least 20 grams of protein. And I will be explaining what that looks like. The protein is a macronutrient, which is so important. It helps regulate our hunger. It keeps us full for longer. Protein, the way it's digested in our body, is very metabolically expensive. Our body needs to break that down quite a bit. So because of that extensive way our body breaks that down into amino acids, it just stays in our body for longer, which is great because we want to choose foods while we're fasting that gives us the longest lasting power. okay? You also want to focus on getting your fiber in. Again, fiber is one of those foods that take long to digest as well. So that combination of protein and fiber is going to keep you full for longer. Okay, this is the magic, balance that you want to create in your meals. You want to have protein, you want to have fiber. So again, our complex carbohydrates are going to give you that. So our whole grains, our fruit as well. I know cereal is a food that is commonly eaten, at suhoor time, mainly because it's easy, it's quick, it doesn't take long. However, cereal, it is really high in carbohydrate and low in protein. So you really want to be strategic. If you really do enjoy cereal, or if you have young kids and they like cereal, be picky with which cereal you're buying and look for high protein choices that give you at least 4 to 5 grams of protein per serving. Okay. So there are many out there in the market. So make sure you're looking at nutrition labels. And I have an example, which we're going to go through after this slide. And milk, so milk is a form of carbohydrate as well, but it does have protein in it. Now, a typical glass of milk, like cow's milk that I'm talking about, has 8 grams of protein. Okay. So if we have 8 grams of protein, that's pretty good. Now, what you could do in place of in place of milk for cereal, you could make like a yogurt parfait. So you could use a high protein yogurt like Greek or skyr yogurt, and 3/4 of a cup of that give you 17 grams of protein. So a cup of milk gives you 8 grams, whereas 3/4 of a cup of yogurt, high protein yogurt, gives you 17. So do you see how close that is to 20? So if you're pairing this with some cereal, you can definitely hit that 20-gram mark. Okay, so that's an example of how to get 20 grams of protein at suhoor. Also, use hemp hearts to naturally boost protein in your meals. So hemp hearts, there's 3 types of seeds essentially. There's flaxseed, there's chia seeds, and then there's hemp hearts or hemp seeds. So hemp is highest in protein, okay? So if you are having a meal that doesn't have that much protein, let's say you're doing toast with peanut butter, which is great because you're getting some protein there. You can sprinkle on hemp hearts to your food, and that will naturally boost your protein intake. If you are having cereal, that's not that high in protein, you can sprinkle in hemp hearts there as well. If you are making a smoothie, take that opportunity to add in hemp hearts to naturally boost the protein, and because hemp hearts are a whole food, it's giving you other nutrients as well, such as magnesium and fiber and, a ton of other vitamins. So it's so fantastic. And I like using that better than a protein powder because this is, again, a whole food that you're getting. Chia seeds are excellent because they are highest in fiber. So out of all the seeds, hemp is highest in protein and chia is highest in fiber. So use those seeds to boost your nutrients in your meals. So again, you can use chia, like yogurt, for example, is really high in protein. But again, remember, fiber is only found in plant foods, and because yogurt is an animal source, it's not going to have any protein in it. So you can add chia seeds to that. And that's a great way to balance your fiber and your protein. So other examples of really nutrient-dense foods that you can include at suhoor include eggs. 2 eggs is about 13 grams of protein. And if you're having that with a slice of toast, you can easily get, if you're doing like a high protein, high fiber bread, you can get like 17, 18 grams of protein there. You can make overnight oats. This is, having oatmeal is such a great food to have. Oatmeal has fiber in it. And you can add stuff to it. You can add the hemp hearts in there. You can add chia in there to really increase the fullness of that meal. So here, there's a bowl of oatmeal. You've got your berries, some nuts in there, and it's a great way it's kind of like a great vehicle to get your nutrients in. I mentioned yogurt is a fantastic food as well, nut butter, and, toast as well. So you want to make sure you're really trying to get in close to 20 grams of protein as much as possible in this early morning meal. It's really important. So I want you to really think about your fiber and your protein at these 2 meals. Okay, so I wanted to talk about milk really quickly because there's so many different types of milks out there, and I just wanted to discuss that quickly. So like I mentioned, cow's milk, 1 cup of cow's milk is 8 grams of protein. Okay. Now in North America, sorry, I'm seeing some questions. I'm going to answer them just after this slide. So in North America, I'm not sure if in the UK or in East Africa this is available. There's Fairlife milk. Okay, so Fairlife milk it's the way it's been filtered. So nothing has been added to it or taken out. It's just the way the molecules are filtered. It's giving you 50% more protein and 50% less sugar, which is amazing. So for example, if we look at the nutrition label here, and the nutrition label is going to show you how much fiber and protein and carbohydrates you're getting in. So this specific milk gives you 13 grams of protein. So this is amazing. So if you're someone who really likes to have cereal, then this would be, and if you're able to digest cow's milk or dairy, then this would be a great one to hone in on. So this is giving you 13 grams of protein per serving, and it's only 6 grams of sugar. So it's lower in sugar, higher in protein. And again, it's just been the way it's filtered. And it's giving you, like all dairy, like all milk in North America, or I guess in the world, is fortified with your B vitamins as well. Okay, so for someone, no, I don't believe Fairlife is organic. I don't think so, no. If you are not able to digest dairy, okay, have lactose intolerance or sensitivity, you want to look for a plant-based milk that gives you at least 8 grams of protein. And this Silk unsweetened vanilla is fortified with protein, with pea protein. So it's giving you 8 grams of protein. Because if you look at almond milk or cashew milk on its own, per cup is like 1 gram of protein, which is super low. So this one is great because it does have pea protein in it. So this is a great source. Again, this is nut-based. So if you have a nut allergy, then this won't be good for you. And then we have our soy milk. Okay, so this is great for someone who has a nut allergy, is not able to digest dairy. Soy milk is another great option as well. So 8 grams of protein per serving, which is pretty good. That's kind of, they're just matching the cow's, the amount of protein in cow's milk. Yes, so right. So Fairlife is lactose free. Now, many people that I work with, even though they try lactose free dairy, sometimes it doesn't sit with them properly. So give it a try. If it doesn't work, then there are other options that you can try. But yeah, this would be a great source to have because of the higher protein source. And because it is higher in protein, it does have a creamier texture to it too. So it's really good. Okay, let me just answer some questions. What is overnight oats? Please explain. Okay, yeah. So overnight oats is essentially you take some rolled oats and you add that to either milk or you add that to yogurt and you let that, like overnight, the milk or the yogurt is going to soften the oats. So you don't necessarily have to cook them. So it's great to make that the night before because there's no cooking involved. And the next day, as it sits in the fridge, as it sits in that liquid, it just naturally softens. So if you do overnight oats, you can do like a few tablespoons of yogurt, a couple tablespoons of oats. You can add some nuts to that, some fruit to that, and you can let it sit in the fridge. And then you have like a parfait in the morning to have. It's really quite delicious and it's super easy because there's no cooking required. I explained about Fairlife. Yes, it's not organic, but it is lactose free. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about cereals, and I try to choose a cereal that is pretty worldwide, that everyone can, find. So I thought Cheerios would be a fantastic example. So this is so important that we look at our nutrition facts panel. So remember when I said when you are looking for a cereal, you really want to focus on that protein because you want to maximize on that and you want to have a minimum of 4 grams of protein. So the regular Cheerios meets this mark. Okay, this gives you 4 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber. So if you're pairing this with, a Fairlife milk, for example, that gives you a lot of protein, you're getting 17 grams of protein there, which is pretty good. Now, Honey Nut Cheerios, it is sweeter, and sadly, it has half the amount of protein of regular Cheerios, which is not ideal. 2 grams of protein is not enough to keep you full. It's just not going to do much for you. So, especially if you're fasting, again, I want you to, really be selective. Be picky with the foods that you're putting in your body. You want to try to make sure they are nutrient dense as possible. So, Honey Nut Cheerios doesn't make the cut. Then we have our multigrain Cheerios, which sounds like it would actually have more nutrition. So, it sounds like it has more stuff in it, but again, the protein is really low. So be mindful, okay? Food companies are there to sell their products and they're very smart at marketing. So make sure you look at the ingredient list to compare different food items, okay? So multigrain Cheerios, again, doesn't really give you much protein. So you're better off sticking to the regular Cheerios. And what you could do, especially if you have younger kids, if they like cereal, you could just pick, you can mix the two, right? You can do like a little bit of regular Cheerios with the honey nut. You could pick a higher fiber cereal and mix it with a higher protein cereal and mix it with a lower protein cereal. Okay, so that's kind of getting a bit of both. So you're not really sacrificing your taste and flavor. You're trying to, get a variety in there. So that's always a great option. Something like a high fiber cereal or a high protein with something with the Honey Nut Cheerios would definitely work. Or you can have something else with it, like a hard-boiled egg or some nuts as well. Sorry, you can't see the nutrition label very clearly on the multigrain one, but it is 2 grams of protein. Okay, so I'm just going to answer some questions. So you mentioned not to skip suhoor. What if there's little time between iftar and suhoor? What should we eat? I know this is a tricky one. Yes, so you definitely don't want to skip suhoor. Having something small and quick would be your best bet. So even just doing a piece of fruit with a handful of nuts, that would be a quick and easy snack to have. You could even do, you could make a smoothie the night before and keep it in the fridge and have that. So it all depends on what you enjoy. Some people like to have warm foods in the morning. Some people don't mind. So again, it's whatever you can fit in that is maximizing your protein and your fiber. So it really is up to you. I think overnight oats would be a fantastic opportunity, for you to get in a lot of good nutrients. It's easy. You can make a couple of them ahead of time and keep it in the fridge. So it's a quick grab and go option for you. Is steel cuts oats better than regular, and does it have a lower glycemic index? Yes, that's a really great question. So steel cut oats does have a lower glycemic index. So let me just explain to you. I have explained this in the past. So steel cut oats are hard. They're kernels. They're very, very hard. And rolled oats have already been processed. So steel cut oats are not as processed. So your body needs to break it down. Okay. So it's more work for your body to do. And anything that takes your body longer to digest something is going to keep you full for longer, and it's not going to turn into sugar right away. So because your body is breaking that down, or taking a longer time to break it down, it's going to stay in our body for longer. So it's going to keep us full longer. So yes, it has a lower GI index. So that would be a fantastic food to include. So if you have an Instant Pot, making steel cut oats is super easy to do, and you can make a batch of it and keep it in the fridge and use it when you need it, So great question. Okay, which I'm going to talk about oatmeal here. Hold on, I have another question. I love all these questions. Oh, I can't see the last question that came up. Okay, so let's talk about oatmeal really quickly. So, we have two types of oatmeal here, or two kinds. So we have our instant oatmeal, and it's with brown sugar and raisins. Okay. And then we have our steel cut oats. And in that, we've added nuts like almonds. We've added chia, again, for extra fiber. We've added flax as well, along with fresh fruit and cinnamon. Okay. So The one that is from steel cut oats and you're adding those nuts, those healthy fats, you're adding that fiber in, this is just going to, the more fiber that we have in our diet, the better our body's able to hold on to that energy, right? So it's slowly digested in our bloodstream. So this is more optimal to have versus one that, it's instant. So it's, already processed, right? So it's going to turn to sugar quickly. But then on top of that, we're adding sugar to it. And then we're adding raisins. So dried fruit, we want to stick to fresh fruit as much as possible. So the fresh fruit, the dried fruit, all the water has been taken out. So it's a concentrated amount of sugar. So it's going to hit our bloodstream really quickly. Versus if we have berries or, any kind of fruit, fresh fruit, it's slowly broken down because of that water content. It really helps us. So hopefully this, answers that question about steel cut oats versus regular oats as well. So when you are having oatmeal, really take that opportunity because it's such a great vehicle to add in, hemp hearts, to add in chia seeds and flax seeds and nuts and fresh fruit. And it can be incredibly filling. So you're full for hours, you feel energized, and your blood sugars are balanced. And when your blood sugars are balanced, your energy is stable and you feel so much better. So this is such a great food to include when you're fasting. Can we add chia directly to foods or does it need to be soaked? Great question. Yeah, you can definitely add chia directly to foods. You don't need to have it soaked. It's all about preference as well. So if you are, let's say you're doing overnight oats, you can add the chia seeds in there and you'll notice they'll expand, which is totally fine. As they expand, and I'm going to be talking about, I think, chia seeds on my next slide, so I'll wait to answer that question. But just to answer it briefly, you don't need to soak them. You can add them directly. You can sprinkle them on food. If you're having toast, for example, you can sprinkle that on. It's absolutely okay. Frozen berries, just as good as fresh berries, and you can definitely add that into oatmeal because it's gonna soften there. Or you can add them into yogurt as well. So frozen berries are great because they're they don't go bad because they're in the freezer and their nutrition is right intact. So the longer fresh food stays in your fridge, for each day that it stays in your fridge, that vitamin levels decrease. Okay, so if you are buying frozen fruit, I think that's very smart because it's been harvested at peak time, right? So it's flash frozen. So all those nutrients are intact and you're not losing that through oxygen as it is in our fridge. So especially during Ramadan, we are not eating that often. So, sometimes if you buy fresh berries, it's going to go bad, which is not something that you want. You don't really want to be wasting as well, right? So stick to frozen. They're cheaper, they're easier, and they don't go bad. Can we make overnight oats with steel cut oats? Okay, good question. And you know what? I've tried it. It doesn't really work out. So you need to cook them. And then you can add that to your overnight oats if you want. But yes, doing that without cooking them is going to be a bit tricky. It won't work. So, in baking and in overnight oats, rolled oats is your best source. Okay. Just make sure you're adding in, chia seeds and flax seeds to give you that additional fiber that's going to help slow down the digestion process. Really good question. Okay, so chia pudding. This is one of my favorite things to eat while fasting. Okay, and I'm going to explain why. So, chia seeds are super rich in fiber as well as calcium. So, it's great if you are plant based or your calcium needs are higher. They also contain a lot of omega 3s, manganese, and a lot of other nutrients. So, chia seeds soak up all the liquid they are placed in, and they grow up to 9 times your original size. Okay, so this is really good because as it expands, it's holding on to that water. And this is fantastic when you're fasting because as your body digests the seeds, the water is slowly absorbed, which means you're staying hydrated throughout the day. So as your body is breaking down these foods, you're releasing hydration during your day, which is so smart, I think, how this food functions. And when we are fasting, that's what we want, right? We want these foods to do all its magic, and chia seeds are one of those foods, especially chia seed pudding. So on my website, on my Instagram, I have recipes for chia seed pudding. I actually really like to have this in the evening time after dinner, like as a snack, and this is a great opportunity for you to get in some fruit as well. So making it is really easy to do. You can make a couple of them at the same time. You just have to soak milk, any kind of milk works, with chia seeds. You want to keep your chia seeds in the fridge. Sometimes some people say that they don't expand very well because chia seeds have a high fat content. If they're stayed at room temperature, it's not as fresh. So try storing them in your fridge in a small container. I buy a pack at Costco and I keep it in the freezer and I transfer it into a small container, and I either keep that in my pantry or in the fridge. You mix that in with yogurt and it expands. It takes about 4 hours or so, or even overnight to expand. Then you top it with fresh fruit. You can add a little bit of sweetener if you want, some cinnamon, and it's such a great snack to have. And I personally love having that, after dinner, like before I go to bed, just like a snack, so I can get in some really good nutrients from the fruit and the seeds as well. So if you haven't tried chia seed pudding, I highly encourage you to do so. We do have a few more weeks until Ramadan starts. So, try these different things out, see how you like them. So that way you're prepared, right? When Ramadan starts. Okay, so let me see some of these questions. Does chia cause constipation? Oh, really good question. Brown chia seeds added to cereal also work. Yes. Oh, guys, great questions. Okay. So yes, because chia seeds are super high in fiber, when you are increasing the fiber in your diet, you need to increase the amount of water you're having, because the hydration needs to help push that fiber through. So, we have a few more weeks until Ramadan starts. See how your body reacts right now. So have, chia seeds or have the fiber, and you need to increase your water intake to help push that fiber through, and your body is going to go through an adjustment. Okay, so start now, try some of these high fiber foods, increase your water intake, and see how your body feels. But definitely, if you increase your fiber intake and you're not drinking enough water, you can definitely get bloated, which could lead to constipation. And excellent other point about ground chia seeds, you can definitely buy a powdered version and you can sprinkle that on as well. Some people don't like the texture of the seeds. You can definitely use a powdered one, and that works just as good. Okay, I will be touching on sleep in a little bit. What am I doing for time? Oh my gosh, it's already 11:30 almost. Okay, so let me talk about iftar really quickly. Again, this is our second meal, and this is very important as well. When you are thinking about iftar, again, you want to break your fast with the intention of giving your body a lot of the nutrients that it hasn't had all day. So you want to focus on whole foods as much as possible. So again, you want to reduce the frequency of your fried foods. Now, remember, when I talked about your hunger hormones earlier, right, how they're very sensitive. So if you are breaking your fast with fried foods, you're going to get full very quickly, and that's going to take away the opportunity for you to get those healthy whole foods in. So if you want to have fried foods, fine, reduce how much you're having it, and don't have that right when you break your fast. Maybe save that for a little bit later. Okay. So, if you are a big fan of fried foods, just don't break your fast with it. Secondly, you can also use an air fryer. There's so many wonderful air fryers on the market. I know the Ninja Grill is really popular. And there's so many traditional foods that we can have that we have that can be used in an air fryer. So again, you're just cutting down on a lot of that calories, that oils that keep you full, right? So this is a great opportunity to use an air fryer. When you break your fast, break it with one date. You don't need to have multiple dates, just stick to one and have some water, because you want to get your hydration in. And if you do drink tea during Ramadan or coffee, just remember to drink water before you have your caffeine. And for every cup of caffeinated beverage you have, make sure to drink a cup of water. try to avoid sweetened drinks. This is just going to hit your bloodstream. It's going to spike our blood sugars, and that's going to just impact our insulin, and it's going to impact our energy levels. Okay, so I mean, it's not like you don't need to have any sweet drinks at all during the month, but just pick and choose when you're going to have it. It's not something you need to have every day. Aim for 2 to 3 cups of veggies first, okay, when you break your fast. So this could be um, in a form of soup, it could be in a form of salad, it could be steamed vegetables, it could be roasted vegetables. Just really try to break your fast and get those vegetables in. You want to make sure you're getting it. You want to make sure you're getting protein in as well, greater than 20 grams. You want to space out your meals, right? So, for example, the way I break my fast is that I have a date, have some water. I may have like a soup or a salad first, and then I'll take a break. I'll go say my prayers. I'll come back. I'll have my main meal. Clean up, do some stuff, and then I'll have a snack right before bedtime. And this is when I'll have chia pudding or some fruit or nuts. Okay. So, you really want to make sure you're getting in vegetables, you're getting in your fruit intake, and you just want to be strategic and plan that out for yourself. And the more organized you are, it's just going to help you. So that's what I do. That helps. Just to kind of space things out. You don't want to just have one big meal when you break your fast. Again, remember, we're not going to be feeling that great because our hunger hormones are going to be very sensitive, and then you're going to be feeling really full. And when you feel really full, you don't obviously feel the greatest. And then our insulin levels are spiked, and then we feel tired, and then they drop. So you just want to space out your meals and be strategic in how you're combining your meals together. So let me answer some questions. What is the best Ramadan series or iftar for those with high metabolism? Again, what I've talked about, right? Really making sure you're getting in that protein is going to be key for you. What is the problem with having 3 dates? Okay, so dates are, and depending, there's so many different kinds of dates. I'm talking about the medjool dates that are pretty big. So dates are great. They're filled with tons of nutrients, but remember, it's a dried fruit. And dried fruit, the water has been taken out, and it's a concentrated amount of sugar. So if we're having 3, let's say, like of those big dates, that's just, you're just getting in so much sugar that you don't necessarily need. And that's going to spike your insulin levels. Now, if that's not something that you're concerned with, then that's fine. For people who want to keep their energy levels stable or have blood sugar issues, you want to stick to 1 date, 1 or 2, and have some nuts with that to help balance out that sugar in our body. Is it bad to have more than 1 date? So it's not necessarily bad, but again, you just really want to be careful with your portions. So if you enjoy dates, 1 to 2, and again, depending, there's some dates that are really tiny, there's some that are a lot bigger. So it all depends on the type of dates. But if you do enjoy having more than 1 date, pair that with a protein, right? Pair that with some nuts, some nut butter, or some pumpkin seeds, so that helps regulate your blood sugars, because that protein and fat from your nuts are going to help stabilize your blood sugars. Again, we don't want to have spikes in our blood sugars. We want to keep them steady as possible. So I hope that answered the question. Sorry, guys, I know we've reached time. So an example of a balanced meal, you want to minimize meals that look like this when you break fast. Again, this is really high carb, and you really want to be careful with your portions. You want to aim for this. So obviously every single dinner or iftar that we have is not going to look like this, right? But you want majority of your iftars to look like this. And what I mean is that you want to have a balanced plate. You want your vegetable intake to be twice as your carbohydrate intake. Okay? So your mani, your rotli, your rice, you want to balance that out with your vegetables. Again, those vegetables, have all the nutrients that our body requires for our cellular health. This is what's going to keep you energized. If we have too many carbs, that's just going to spike our insulin. It's going to make us feel tired. We're going to feel sluggish. We're not going to feel that great. But if you eat something like this, that's more balanced, it's just going to make you feel better. And that's what you want, right? And then so you have a portioned out protein. So really, when you look at your dinner plate, you want half your plate to be vegetable based, a vegetable component, which could be a salad or like a vegetable curry. You want to have protein in there, and you want to have some carbohydrates. And the amount of the foods that you're having is so important. The portions and how it impacts our energy levels as well. I think I missed a slide. Okay, hydration. This is super important. So when we are hydrated, obviously this takes a hit when we are fasting, but being well hydrated helps with our focus and our concentration. It helps boost our energy levels. Water is the best source of hydration to get when you are fasting. You want to, like I said, avoid sweetened drinks. You want to balance your water intake with any caffeinated beverages. Avoiding processed high sugary foods is great, so you're not thirsty. You want to avoid fried foods or minimize them as much as you can, and a lot of salty foods. A lot of, store-bought foods, for example, or packaged foods have sodium in it. So you want to just be mindful because you don't want to be thirsty when you're fasting. And one way to kind of offset that is to really, you know, be careful with those types of foods that are high in sugar, high in salt. And remember that hydration also comes from food too. It's not just water. So you're getting hydration from yogurt, kefir, which is a fermented yogurt drink, coconut water, excellent source of hydration, has potassium in there as well, which is great. Smoothies work towards our hydration status as well. Cottage cheese, our fruits and our vegetables, and of course, my favorite, chia seeds. Great way to get in hydration from your foods. And then exercise and sleep. Okay. These two also are very much impacted when we are fasting. So I really want you guys to engage in some sort of exercise, even if it's just walking. It's a great way. You can listen to a majlis, you can listen to a surah or a Quran when you're going outside for a walk. So you're doing two things at once. I think that's a really great way to kind of get some exercise in to help boost your energy levels, get some fresh air. And then strength training really helps with muscle loss. So many people during the month of Ramadan, they do lose weight, but they're losing muscle and they're losing, which is what we want to hold on to, especially as we get older. So engaging in some strength training, and again, you don't have to do much of it. Again, 15 to 20 minutes. So if you're able to incorporate that in before you break your fast, that would be great, or even after. Again, it depends on your schedule. And then find a time that works for you. Aim to get movement in daily. Some people are able to alter their schedule during Ramadan. They're lucky if they are able to. Some people can't. So just see what works best for you to get some movement in. And then also with sleep, this is a really tough one. Obviously, our sleep is very much disrupted, because we have to wake up in the middle of the night, and then falling back asleep is also tricky. And then if you're drinking water, you have to go to the bathroom. I know it's hard, right? So it will take some time to adjust to your new routine. Okay. So, the first week of during Ramadan, you'll see how you feel. You'll make some adjustments. Taking naps when you can, this is going to be super helpful. And especially now being in a pandemic, again, we are not going anywhere. So really trying to focus on taking some naps is going to be really helpful. And then plan your schedule ahead of time. Like for many of us here I don't know about all of Canada, but in Ontario, we're super lucky. Our March break has been moved to April, which coincides with the first week of Ramadan, which is so great. So, it's going to be, if you have kids fasting, like for my kids, it's going to be good for them to kind of adjust to that before school starts. So really lucked out there. And then supplements. Again, I want you to focus on food first because your food is filled with so many good nutrients that you really want to be getting in. Okay. And I've highlighted all those foods for you. If you are currently taking vitamins, you can continue to take them even while you're fasting. If you're considering of taking a multivitamin, that's fine. It's up to you. It's a good option if you want to cover your bases. The two vitamins that I highly recommend for everyone to take, whether during Ramadan or not, is to have vitamin D and omega-3. Okay, these two are really great. Again, omega-3 is found in very few food sources. Both of these are found it's hard to get through food alone. So supplementing with that would be really helpful. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to answer some questions right now. I'm so sorry this went over. But, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. I have a free Facebook community. It's called the Blood Sugar Solution. You can join that. I do some lives in there. You can follow me on Instagram at Anar Allidina. You can, visit my websites where I do have some other resources for Ramadan, some blog posts as well as recipes. And then you can always shoot me an email. I love hearing from you. So thank you so much. And I'm going to answer some of these questions. Okay. That dates do not have a glycemic index. No, they have a medium glycemic index. So all dried fruit do. So the way our body digests them. Yes, there is fiber in dates, but it still has more carbohydrates than fiber. So we can't have an unlimited amount of this. We need to be careful with our dried fruit intake. So breaking your fast, with a date is absolutely fine to do. You just don't want to overdo that. The coconut water we get at the grocery store usually has added sugar. Yes. Yeah, so you definitely want to try to choose a coconut water that doesn't have any added sugars to it. So see if you can find that, and compare different brands as well. And then shoot me an email if I don't know where you are, but I know if you're in Canada, I can send you some recommendations for coconut water that are, natural, just have natural sugars in them. And then will it be possible for yeah, I think this presentation is recorded, so a replay will be available, so you guys have access to the slides as well as everything that I spoke about. So thank you guys so much again for all these amazing questions and for tuning in with me. And again, if you have any other questions, please let me know. Oh, you are so welcome. I really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. So I wish you guys a wonderful month of fasting and a healthy month as well. All right. Take care, everyone. Kudafis. Yes. So the recording of this presentation is going to be uploaded, and you guys will have access to that.